Taking a look at Jerry Palm's projected 1 seeds, we got Gonzaga, Auburn, Arizona, and Kentucky. A couple of West Coast teams, a couple of SEC teams at the moment. Kansas had been a 1 seed previously, but that lost to Texas in Austin. This week knocks them out a peg or two. Auburn lost at Arkansas, that OT thriller, but stays on this list. All right, let's bring in our guy, Jerry Palm, to go over Purdue here. How do you think the committee will view this particular blowout loss, Jerry?
Well, the committee doesn't really incentivize margin of victory. It's just one of those days that things didn't go well for Purdue. So it's a loss to a team that's, decent. And actually, the win put Michigan in at the bottom of my bracket today, the last team in. But it's not the kind of a thing where Purdue's all of a sudden gone from a potential 1 to a 4. They don't react like that to big blowout losses or even big blowout wins. It's just another loss to a team that Purdue should beat, but can't seem to beat away from home.
All right. Well, they have a chance to get back in the win column as they host Maryland on Sunday. We saw the highlight earlier for Duke. Is there a path for Duke, in your eyes, to maybe secure a 1 seed when it's all said and done?
Boy, probably not. Just because of the losses that they already have, losses to, say, Miami and Florida State and now Virginia. In this league, they don't have the opportunity to pick up the kind of quality wins that they need to compete with the teams that are competing for number 1 seeds. I mean, they're the quality win for everyone else, but there isn't anybody that they can beat in this league that really makes a statement. So I don't see how Duke has much real upward mobility at all, except through attrition and continuing to beat the teams that they should, which they've had trouble with as well.
It'll be at BC on Saturday. Let's go over to the Pac-12, Jerry, where we were sort of on a double bubble watch, meaning 2 teams in that conversation. What's the fallout from Oregon beating Stanford 68-60?
Yeah, it's been a rough week for Stanford. A couple of opportunities to get some wins that would help them and lost both games. And so now Stanford is actually off the bubble. Out of the bracket and off the bubble for now. Of course, there's still chances, but their schedule's not very favorable. They have a lot of road games left. So, Stanford's going to have to find a way to win some games they're probably not supposed to get back in contention. Meanwhile, Oregon, this is a nice win, but it's not the kind of win that's going to propel them way up the bracket, but they're a little more comfortably in than they were on Monday.
All right, Oregon to host Cal on Saturday. You mentioned Stanford, the Cardinal, being on the road. They're going to be at Oregon State Saturday as well. Continuing the bubble watch, the Iowa Hawkeyes right now. The resume says 16-7, but they won back-to-back games after losing 2 in a row, getting a game postponed in between that time. How do we view Iowa at the moment?
Well, that win over Maryland that's just a Big Ten win. Maryland is not really a contender, so it's not a big resume booster. It's one of those games that would have hurt you if you lost it. They obviously, Iowa's a great offensive team, and they really had a day against Maryland, scoring 110 points. But it's not the kind of thing that really moves the needle for them. They really need to get the Ohio State game that you mentioned that was postponed back on their schedule, because even though that's a road game, that's the kind of game that Iowa needs if they're going to build their resume and get off the bottom half of the bracket. That's a much more important game for Iowa to get rescheduled than it is for Ohio State, but I don't know if they're going to be able to work that out this late in the season.
All right, home against Nebraska on Sunday. Jerry, if I were to ask you, taking a look at the small conference slate on Thursday night, what was the biggest win among that group?
Well, I would say BYU. If you can count the West Coast Conference as a small conference. BYU needed that desperately. They'd lost 4 in a row. It wasn't like an injury problem or anything. They just went into a funk and were killing their resume. And they were ready to fall off the bracket if they had lost to Loyola Marymount. But they came back and they won in overtime. And that's a big win just to stop the bleeding for BYU, but also to stay in the bracket for now. They have a very favorable schedule down the stretch of this season, games that they not only can win, but now they must win.
All right, you think you're right, too. West Coast Conference going to get multiple bids, big time, of course, when it comes to March Madness. And then what about this weekend? What are you looking out for, Jerry?
Well, to me, the big game, the one I'm most interested in is UCLA and USC. USC is a team that's in the polls for no apparent reason. If you look at their tournament resume, they're barely a tournament team. They played a horrible non-conference schedule, so they have a gaudy record. They only have 1 win over a team that's actually in today's bracket, and that came over San Diego State, who's a bottom half of the bracket team. So there's really not a lot of meat on this resume. They were swept by Stanford, lost to Oregon. They need a quality win, a statement win, and the Pac-12 is not going to give them many chances to do that. But UCLA coming to their place this weekend, that's a big opportunity.
All right, Jerry, certainly appreciate it. Catch everything on CBSSports.com and, of course, his weekly visits here on CBS Sports HQ. And during this time of year, it's multiple times a week. Eye on College Basketball Podcast, the co-hosts Matt Norlander and Gary Parrish. Make sure you download and follow the guys talking about some key matchups. And we just talked about the West Coast Conference. 4 bids perhaps in danger for the WCC. The guys discussed that in the latest podcast.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.